Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Philosophossum, and today we're looking at a short video from Miniature Kyle Kulinski, also known as the Progressive Voice. In this video, the Progressive Voice is responding to a short segment of Ben Shapiro on Dave Rubin's show, because he's not particularly happy with what Ben Shapiro had to say. Let's have a look. So right off the bat, just looking at the title of the video, it's very clear that this guy doesn't actually understand the details of the issue here. The title of the video is Ben Shapiro, Let Bakers Discriminate Against Gay People. That's not really what's at issue here. The issue isn't whether or not bakers should be allowed to discriminate against gay people. It's whether or not bakers should be forced to make cakes for same-sex weddings. Recall that Jack Phillips never said he was refusing service to the couple because they're gay. He simply doesn't serve cakes for same-sex weddings. Phillips made it clear that he was willing to serve the couple any other product in the store. So yeah, right out of the gate, this guy doesn't understand what's actually at issue.
Not going to come from the right, it's going to come from the left pushing the ball. Meaning that it's going to come from the case in Oregon with this baker who doesn't want to service a same-sex wedding, doesn't want to actually have to cater it.
Yeah.
Right? I think that good-hearted people should say, fine, you do what you want, go across the street to the bakery, like, who cares?
That's what I would say.
Right?
Like,
And
I'm not
because
forcing.
this is the difference between a liberal and a leftist.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, this is the difference between a liberal and a leftist. A liberal says, your business, I don't care. A leftist says, no, 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 no. I think it's imperative that you will be made to care, right? In Eric Erickson's phrase, you'll be made to care. A man will come to your house with a gun and he will tell you that if you do not cater this wedding.
So this is something that authoritarians and left-wingers often either forget or prefer not to think about. Anytime you want the government to come in and solve a problem, you're essentially advocating for violence. Because remember, laws aren't suggestions, they're threats. Laws don't say, well, we would prefer if you did this. They say, you will do this, and if you don't, we're going to send men with guns after you to forcibly take your money, kidnap you into a cage, possibly even injure or kill you. So before you go crying to the government to step in to solve a problem, before you go saying there ought to be a law, sort of have it in the back of your mind that you're essentially advocating for violence. Sure, there are plenty of things that people might do that you may find distasteful, things you may consider to be a dick move, but take a moment to think, at the end of the day, do I really want people to be put in harm's way for doing this?
This is what? They were forced to pay a $175,000 fine for not catering a lesbian wedding.
Holy shit, $175,000. Like, you could buy my car and my house and still have money left over with that much. Imagine being a small mom and pop bakery, running on very thin margins, and you suddenly have to cough up almost $250,000, all because you didn't want some left-wing liberal to shove their beliefs down your throat.
There's a bakery across the street.
Yeah, aren't there other bakeries out there? Couldn't these gay couples just go find another bakery to make their cake? But of course, that wouldn't stir up publicity from the media now, would it?
This is really nefarious stuff. So this is
Ben Shapiro making the argument that
I love this background picture, by the way. Ben Shapiro's holding up two middle fingers. He's got that no fucks given look on his face. It's just so badass looking.
Bakers that don't bake gay cakes or cakes for gay weddings shouldn't have to.
Yep, I agree with what Mr. Shapiro is saying here. Nobody owes you a cake. Nobody has the right to just go around demanding shit from people.
Is the same argument that can be used to basically disparage and destroy the Civil Rights Act.
So very clearly this guy doesn't actually understand the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act was primarily intended to address Jim Crow laws, as in government-mandated segregation. Segregation in the private sector wasn't really a high priority. Also, the Civil Rights Act is about race, not sexual orientation, so it's not even relevant here.
You can basically say that, hey, I have a firmly affirmed belief.
Firmly grasp it in your hand. Firmly grasp it.
And religion is all made up, so nothing has more credibility.
I got some news for you, buddy. Your precious government that you love so much is also made up. Government is just a group of people who decide that they have the right to boss you around and control you. The only real legitimate authority it has is what people imagine it to have.
And you could probably even argue that there's some kind of specific, belief that you have in some kind of white supremacy, or you don't want to serve black people.
Well, here's the thing, buddy. People have right to their beliefs. If someone wants to believe in white supremacy or hold viewpoints that are racist or bigoted, as much as I disagree with those viewpoints, it is their right.
You could honestly just say, fuck it, I don't want to serve black people.
Yeah, people have a right to decide who they do and don't want to do business with. It's called free association. If someone decides that they don't want to serve white people or black people or whomever, they don't have to. I think we could agree that that's kind of a dick move, but it is their right.
And we talked about this story because there's a case that the Supreme Court will be hearing, and there's been this perversion of this freedom of religion.
And who exactly gets to decide what's considered a perversion of freedom of religion? Freedom of religion basically means that people are allowed to believe whatever religion they want and engage in practice of that religion to the extent that they're not harming others or infringing on other people's rights. So if you practicing your religion involves like human sacrifice or damaging other people's property, then it would be legitimate to restrict that. But within the confines of not hurting anyone else, you're basically free to practice your religion however you want.
Going from, hey, you can practice whatever religion you want in your home to...
Where in the Constitution does it say that freedom of religion only applies to the home? I'm pretty sure if people want to gather together to practice their religion in public, say at a church for example, then their First Amendment protections extend to that too.
You're walking around in a shopping center, there's a bakery, and now you have to identify that as the homophobic, anti-gay bakery.
Correct. So what you would then do in that situation is identify that bakery as the homophobic anti-gay bakery and go to a different bakery. It's that simple. Bakeries that discriminate will lose money and be outcompeted by other bakeries that don't. That's how discrimination is dealt with in a free market.
And now you can't buy a cake.
Nobody's saying you can't buy a cake, just not from that bakery. As a matter of fact, Jack Phillips never even said they couldn't buy a cake. Mr. Phillips made it perfectly clear that he was willing to sell the couple any pre-made product already on the shelf. At his bakery, he just doesn't make cakes for same-sex weddings. If you don't like that, go to a different bakery.
Because I'm shoving down my religion down your throat when I'm in the shopping center right near your house.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
What? I'm sorry, how is him refusing to make a cake for a gay wedding shoving his religion down their throat? He's not shoving anything down anybody's throat. He's not saying gay people can't get married. He's not saying the couple can't go get their gay wedding cake from a different bakery. All he's saying is that he doesn't make cakes for same-sex weddings. The only person here trying to shove their beliefs down other people's throats is you, since you think this baker should be forced to participate in a wedding he doesn't believe in. Yikes, talk about projection.
So, anyways, Colorado state law says that you can't discriminate, which is great. That's how it should be.
Alright, so you very clearly don't believe in free association. So let me ask you this. Should customers be allowed to discriminate? Should customers be allowed to decide that they don't want to shop at businesses that are owned by black people or gay people or whatever? Or should those business owners be allowed to force you to shop at their business? Why is it legitimate for the consumer to compel commerce because of their membership in a particular class, but not the producer? Because a lot of the arguments you could make to justify compelled commerce on the consumer end would also equally work on the producer end.
Now, they're challenging it, saying that the Constitution basically gives them a right to turn people away just because they're gay, which is fucking out of this world.
Mr. Strawman, give me a break.
Yeah, that is out of this world. It's a good thing then that that's not what they were actually arguing. Mr. Phillips was never arguing that the Constitution gave him a right to not serve gay people. At no point did Mr. Phillips ever say that he would refuse to serve the gay couple because they're gay. His argument is that by making a piece of art, i.e. a cake, for a gay wedding, that could be construed as him participating in and therefore condoning the gay wedding. Therefore, under the First Amendment, Mr. Phillips would have the right to refuse to create a piece of art that condones something that he's against. It would be no different than a gay baker refusing to make a cake for a Westboro Baptist church ceremony.
But the problem here is that you can't discriminate based on sexuality, okay?
Well, first of all, that's not what he was doing. Again, at no point did Mr. Phillips ever say he was denying the couple because of their sexual orientation. He was perfectly willing to sell them pre-made product, he just wasn't going to make a cake for their gay wedding. But even if they were turning them away because they're gay, so what? It's their property, they get to make the rules. Don't like it, go somewhere else.
And he says catering, but that's false. It's just baking a cake. It's not catering to their wedding.
Hey, genius. Catering is providing food for an event. Like, that's literally what the word catering means.
But basically, if you are going to make cakes for straight weddings, You have to make cakes for gay weddings. You can't discriminate because of their sexuality.
Why not? It's their business, it's their property, it's their ingredients, it's their equipment, it's their time and labor. Why shouldn't they have the right to decide who to provide it for? I mean, I do personally disagree with the decision not to make the gay wedding cake. But guess what? It's their business, so it's not my decision to make.
And, you know, you can tell if somebody comes in and says, fuck you, you're a bitch, make me my cake, you can discriminate against them because they're clearly being a dick to you. But if somebody comes in totally polite, just like everybody else, but is gay instead of straight, you can't deny them a cake just because of their sexuality.
So why exactly do you have the final authority on what is and isn't considered a legitimate reason for a business to deny service? What gives you the unilateral right to dictate how other people are allowed to use their property? Let's say, for example, Progressive Voice, that I decide because of some class that I'm a member of, I have the right to come over and sleep at your house. I'd imagine you wouldn't take too kindly to that.
And people compare this somehow to slavery, like Kate and Cowger, but it's not.
If you're telling someone they have to make a cake that they don't want to, that is compelled servitude. Compelled servitude is literally the definition of slavery.
If you don't want to serve cakes, period, for weddings, don't. Just don't. Just shut down.
So someone should have to give up their career, their livelihood, their source of income, their business that they probably worked hard and took a lot of risks in order to create, all just to not be forced to parrot viewpoints they don't believe. And this is frankly the exact same logic as arguing that slaves were in fact actually free because they could, if they wanted to, choose to disobey their master's orders and get beaten.
But any business that is open to the public cannot discriminate just because of your sexuality based on some stupid book that is bullshit.
And why exactly do you have the final authority on what is and isn't considered bullshit? Maybe I think your government's laws are a book that is bullshit. Maybe I think the authority that your government arbitrarily claims to have over me is bullshit. Does that give me the right to disregard it? On the whole, this video is actually pretty vacuous. The arguments were just lacking in substance. I mean, at least Ben Shapiro did actually explain why it is he believes that bakers should be allowed to refuse to bake a cake for a gay wedding. All this guy really does is just repeat that they shouldn't be allowed to without explaining why. But yeah, if you enjoyed, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is Philosophism making stupidity play dead. Until next time, take care.